Shalini ma'am has got a beautiful backdrop also in the background.
इन्वेंट चलाना मामला
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for International Council for Circular Economy to hold the book release of our Managing Director, Ms. Shalini Goyal Bhalla. I'm Susanna Lal, and it is a matter of extreme honor for me to host this book launch. I have with me Sonali Dutt as my co-host.
Good afternoon, all present. They say reading is a conversation. All books talk. But a good book listens, and while losing oneself in it, one ends up knowing the unknown. A very warm welcome once again to the virtual book launch of India's first ever book on demystifying the intricacies of a circular economy by an Indian author. Circular Economy, Re-emerging Movement by Shalini Goyal Bhalla. A simple and pragmatic answer to all our complicated questions around the concept.
We wish Ms. Shalini heartiest congratulations for the book. I have moderated many webinars for ICCE, and I remember introducing Ms. Shalini in each of them. The last line that I used to mention was that she is currently writing a book on circular economy. Today, it gives me immense delight in introducing her as the author of the first book on circular economy in India. A climate change visionary, an active social worker, a circular economy leader, an active speaker, there is a lot more to her. She has been actively working in sustainability and developed a zero waste program which helps entities to reduce their carbon footprint. Her Project Zero made headlines when it was awarded by the Uttarakhand state government. Not to forget her own awards that add to her laurels. She has been recognized and awarded by Social Founder London, Global Goodwill Ambassador the US, ICUNR India. She was also given the Women in Leadership Award by Pathbreakers in 2020. She heads the Circular Economy Committee in MSME Chambers of Commerce and Global Chamber of Commerce of India and with Delhi government on their Entrepreneurship Mindset program. She's a mentor to 7 women-led enterprises. Currently working as an advisor in sustainability and circular economy, she is chairing the International Council for Circular Economy.
With an endeavor to accelerate the transition towards a circular economy, ICCE is one of the largest international network of professionals, corporates, and organizations working towards being a part of the solution rather than creating the pollution. ICCE has a global footprint and facilitates in planning as well as execution of circular economy strategies. With the firm belief that knowledge shared is knowledge squared, the Council also conducts some very gripping workshops and webinars to act as a catalyst for change.
India can take the lead role in sharing and educating the world on lifestyle changes that have been circular in nature, are the words by our author, Ms. Shalini. Shalini's book is a scholarly work on the maturing of economies, closed, open, linear, and now circular. The book advances from the linear to circular approach, divulging how scarce resources could be put to optimum utilization to restore our planet's harmony. She has picked up several sectors, outlining how each could become sustainable through a loop based approach. What makes it easier for the reader to delve into the subject are the several case studies, infographics, and diagrams. The book is recommended for circular economy practitioners, sustainability heads, industry experts, government bodies, policymakers, academia, research, people from associated sectors, students, bilateral and multilateral organizations that are working in sustainability.
We now take the opportunity to present a glimpse of the book to you through a short video made by Invisible Publishers, an attempt to take you through the beautiful journey and perspectives behind the coveted book. Here it is.
The book talks about maturing of world economies, from closed to open to linear and now circular. Circular economy is a resource multiplier, especially for a country like India, where the recycling rates are 1/3 to that of the global average. The book takes a sectoral approach, mentioning how several sectors can become sustainable through a loop-based approach. Several case studies, infographics, and data analytics makes the book an interesting read. I recommend the book to circular economy practitioners, sustainability heads, industry experts, government bodies, policymakers, academia, research, people from associated sectors, and students.
Without any further ado, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our honorable chief guest, Mr. Amitabh Kant, CEO of NITI Aayog, to release the book. His presence here today is indeed a blessing for us. Through his life and work, he has never stopped motivating us and driving us to work for our nation. A member of the Indian Administrative Services, author of the marvelous book Branding India An Incredible Story, key driver of several campaigns like Make in India, Startup India, Incredible India, God's Own Country, and Atiti Devo Bhava, Mr. Kant has always been an inspiration. Mr. Kant has been the recipient of esteemed awards: Economic Time Policy Change Agent of the Year Award, the Bloomberg TV Personality of the Year Award, the NTTV Administrator of the Year Award, One Globe Award 2016 for Leadership in Transforming Governance for the 21st Century, Sir Edmund Hillary Fellowship Award by the Prime Minister of New Zealand, to name some. Mr. Amitabh Kant has worked as CMD, ITDC, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, Secretary Tourism, Government of Kerala, Managing Director, Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation, District Collector, Kozhikode, and Managing Director, Matsya Fair. He was also the National Project Director of the Rural Tourism Project of UNDP. In his capacity as Secretary of Industries, Government of India, Mr. Kant drove the Ease of Doing Business initiative and ranking of states in outcome parameters. He's also the chairman of the committee to implement digital payment in India. Sir, it is an honor to have you with us today. And now I would request you to officially release the book.
I'm delighted to release this book. I think the video is muted, so if you can unmute, you'll see this. But I'm really honored and delighted to release this very fascinating book, and I compliment the author on this wonderful book. Okay. Okay. लगा दो okay.
On behalf of the author, Amitabh sir, we would like to thank you for releasing the book. And it's an extreme honor and pride for the entire ICC family. So the latest Circularity Gap report states that circular economy strategies can cut 39% of total global emissions and 28% of virgin resource use. Would you like to share with us your views on India's approach towards circular economy and resource efficiency?
Firstly, I'm very happy to launch this book on circular economy, which has been authored by Shalini, Goyal, Bhalla, and I would like to compliment her on this very unique work. The launch of this book comes at a time when the concept of circular economy is becoming an area of focus across countries in the world and India in particular. And I think this book will give it a major impetus. Having gone through this book, I'm very happy to note that the way in which this book has been written, it would greatly aid people from the industry and government alike in exploring how we can transform from a linear to a circular economy. It was also very interesting to see how important sectors have been identified and an approach for making each of these sectors have been explained with the use of infographics and case studies. What is particularly important is how this book stresses upon the fact that our ability to adopt a circular economy approach is not just important from a sustainability point of view, but how it can also serve as a resource multiplier for a country like ours, where recycling rates are far below the global average. While India has already embarked on the mission to become Atmanirbhar, and with the government announcing production-linked incentive scheme for 10 key sectors, manufacturing in India is set to gain unprecedented push. Considering the size and scale of India's economy, the rise in demand of raw materials would be unparalleled. There was a six-fold increase in annual material consumption between 1970 and 2015 from 1.18 billion to 7 billion tons. And the same is expected to double to about 14.2 billion tons by 2030. While increased manufacturing and changing consumption patterns would bring more employment and increase per capita income, the effects of much and such higher income and production on the environment needs to be efficiently managed and mitigated. With only 2% of the world's landmass and 4% freshwater resources, a linear economy model of take, make, dispose would hamper India's manufacturing sector and consequently the overall economy. And therefore, there is a growing need for an economic development model that not only leads to economic growth, but also looks at sustainable growth and optimum utilization of resources. Circular economy offers one such model. It provides a multi-pronged approach for economical and ecological benefits. It is estimated that a circular economy path adopted by India would bring in annual benefits of close to Indian rupee 40 lakh crores, approximately US dollar 624 billion by 2050. The greenhouse emission would reduce by 44%, along with significant reduction in congestion and pollution, which would have a snowball effect on the Indian economy. The government of India is actively formulating policies and promoting projects to drive the country towards a circular economy. Two such critical areas are electricity from recyclable resources and waste management. The government has already notified various rules such as the plastic waste management rules, e-waste management rules, construction and demolition waste management rules, metals recycling policy, etc., which promotes circular economy within the country. India is one of the highest plastic recycling rates in the world. Over 90% of all the PET that is manufactured in the country are recycled. India has also made strides in improving electronics recycling. More than 700 electronic producers have signed up for e-waste extended producer responsibility authorization. India has built over 1 lakh kilometers of roads using plastic waste. The construction of every kilometer of road required 9 tons of asphalt and 1 ton of plastic waste. This means that for every kilometer of road, 1 ton asphalt is saved, which costs about rupees 30,000. In my opinion, we need to rethink the linear model, especially in the areas of municipal solid and liquid waste, metals waste, electronic waste, lithium-ion batteries, discarded solar panels, toxic and hazardous industrial waste, fly ash, oil waste, and agriculture waste, among others. I see tremendous opportunities of growth in each of these respective areas, and with that, a potential to assimilate the circular economy model. For instance, fly ash from electricity production and disposable slag from steel industry can be used as raw materials for concrete production. The change in raw material mix for concrete production would create a massive economic impact by way of cost savings on extraction of fresh resources. The circular model here offers multi-pronged benefits to economy as well as the environment. For the electricity production company and the steel industry, such an arrangement not only addresses the issue of waste management for them, but also enables optimal resource efficiency in a very, very coherent manner. The opportunity is multifold: to create skilled jobs in recycling units, curb environmental implications of dumping, and ensure a positive effect on resources and by extension, the Indian economy. I would like to congratulate Shalini Goyal Bhalla for authoring this very important and very topical book, which will provide valuable guidance to industries and policymakers alike on the need to adopt a circular economy approach and the channels through which it can be best achieved. I would like to extend my support to work which is being done by professionals such as yourself, as well as industries and startups who embrace and further the concept of circular economy. We all need to work together to move from a linear to a circular economy. This is critical for India's growth and progress. My best wishes to you, and particularly to Shalini Goyal Bhalla and to all the people who have assembled here today, as they are all ambassadors of the circular economy. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kant, for sharing your valuable perspectives and words of encouragement. They deeply resonate with our audience, and we shall surely try to move on the path suggested by you and make positive actions to stand for what we actually stand on. And your work has definitely been a big, big inspiration for all of us present here. We cannot thank you enough for your valuable time and presence. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, please also join me in welcoming Mr. Puran Chandru Pandey, who has over 20 years of experience in a multitude of sectors, ranging from consulting and media to non-profits and international think tanks. Mr. Pandey has handled some very coveted senior leadership roles, both in India and abroad, with the focus on strategy, program management, financial regulations, negotiations, and corporate social responsibility. He's been a harbinger of change when it comes to working in the circular economy sector, and has also worked on several seminal reports and research works for prestigious organizations, including the United Nations. Thank you for joining us, sir. We look forward to listening to your views on the book, which has come at a time when circular economy is needed much more than ever before. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much indeed for your kind introduction. And first of all, I would like to congratulate Shalini for this undertaking of the book on circular economy, which I think is seminal and epochal at the same time, because it comes at a time when we are all trying to find out solutions to many challenges that we have been hit hard. And there could have not been a better time than the time like now for a book like this. And I have had an opportunity to be able to go through the book from cover to cover, from page to page, and had a fairly good grip on author's overall focus, impetus, trying to find solutions, and also trying to figure out as to what could really be done with regard to resource efficiency, because resource efficiency is not only efficiency at the optimal level, but it is also something whereby you not only save money, but you also try and creatively regenerate very scarce, resources which our Mother Earth has. So this book is, a turning point when it comes to, producing some hands-on content, information in a very lucid way. And this book is also a book which one can pick up, go through very leisurely, and try and find several plug points which are very seminal, and seminal from the point of view of what we keep on doing on a day-to-day basis in our homes, in our families, in our community, in our locality. And therefore, this book stands out on being simple on the one hand. On the other hand, it gives very serious tone and tenor in terms of circularity and how can limited and scarce resources be used in a manner that we remain sustainable across the spectrum. Another area which I found very unique in the book is that this book is meant for everybody, right from someone who is studying, sustainability or economics or even history, because it sort of goes all over and tries to connect several disciplines across the board. And therefore, this is a very pertinent book, very easy. You can handle it, you can keep it in your bag, in your purse, and you can keep on referring to it and trying to see to it as to what you continue to do at home. Is there a way out for it? So I think it's very simple, written in a very lucid way, explaining the concept behind circular economy. And let me also say, the circular economy looks very complex as a concept on the face of it. But when you really refer to this book and go through it, you figure out that things are really very easy. So it is very, well written and written in a way which makes the whole concept, which is complicated and complex in the face of it, very simple, very lucid, and very reading friendly. So I would really recommend this book as a book which is a must read for everybody. Experts are, of course, experts, they know everything. But then, you need to revisit the ideas, the concept. In that context, I would even recommend some of the experts to look at this book while going out and asking everybody to consider looking at the book, going through it, and trying to see to it how simple the whole idea around circular economy has gotten been made by the author. I would in particular like to refer everybody to page 38, para number 2, where she says circular value chain analysis not only depends on internal analysis, but also external analysis. And then she keeps on weaving the story, which really gives you demand side of circular model, but also at the same time, the supply side to it. Because unless you really match supply and the demand side, the story is not really going to be complete. So I would really recommend everybody, right from a student to someone who is working with a company to someone who is considering to go for recycling, including experts and policymakers. Having said it, I also find a report which had just been open during Davos, because this book is also being launched at a time when we are also involved with telling the world our story, our India story at Davos. And I have been a part of the ongoing deliberations at Davos. And I have been telling them that by both likelihood and impact, two things are really going to remain constant. One is the climate change, or climate crisis, if you want to call it, on the one hand, and human disease. So we are already fighting with the human disease, and climate is something which we are trying to dig deeper. But I would really go a step further and ask the author and Shalini to consider the following. In context of the background, that means that while we are trying to be very careful, very responsible, trying to maintain a very simple lifestyle, but we have also seen what COVID-19 has done to all of us. And what we are also trying to do, as Mr. Kant said, we have several policies on several sectors, not really going to name them, but let me go a step further and go a step beyond. What is really going to happen is that while we are trying to find solution to fossil fuel, we are going to create some other problem. While we are trying to find storage where we can find battery storage for our electric mobility or the electric vehicle, we are going to work with the nature, maybe against the nature as well. The thorium is a very scarce commodity hidden in the womb of nature. what will really happen to that? We are really looking at renewable energy. What happens to solar panels? And I know that solar panels cannot be disposed of quite easily. I mean, I'm saying it with a certain amount of confidence and my own expertise in that. So while you are looking at circular economy, you have got to look ahead. I mean, the journey is fine, but destination is equally important. So I will really request Shalini to consider writing another book where she takes, a more creative and innovative approach, which is transformational. And I will also ask her, in my own personal individual capacity, to see what will happen once we begin to find solutions to ordinary problems that we have. So is circular economy the beginning of the end or something else? So I would really stop here and once again congratulate Shalini, the author, and will recommend everybody to kindly have your hands on the book and read it in a jiffy. And it can be a fairly rewarding reading through the book which Shalini has taken a lot of pain to complete and finish in a very, very short period of time. So congratulations once again, Shalini. And I look forward to reading another book that you will, I hope you will begin to work soon. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pandey, for sharing your words of wisdom and encouragement. Those were very insightful points raised by you indeed when it comes to making a circular economy an absolute reality. We really appreciate your time and presence, sir. We are also pleased to have with us Mr. Prabjot Sodhi, who has been serving as the Country Program Manager, Global Environment Facility, Small Grant Program UNDP Center for Environment Education for 14 years. He was awarded as the Most Excellent Order Member of British Empire in 1998 by the Government of UK for promoting sustainable development practices amongst the tribals in India. In September 2012, the George Washington University, Washington, D.C., USA, honored him with the Talented Conservator Award for his contributions in the field of biodiversity conservation. His work has also been published in an array of reputed national and international journals. We shall be glad to have the opportunity of listening to your views, sir, when it comes to the book and more. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, please. Thanks for the kind words. And very good afternoon to all of you. And congratulations, Shalini. You've done a good thought in the day of today. Thanks for the opportunity also to be with these eminent speakers here. And to begin with Mr. Kant and Mr. Puran Pandey. I'll not be far away from what they are saying since I manage the program on circular economy right now in UNDP, particularly for plastics as a sector. And we are opening it up for 11 sectors, as Mr. Kant said. I'm really happy. When I first saw your book and you gave me, I scanned the foreword written by Puran, and it was and Axel, evoking greater interest in that. Then what I did, and by the evening, I went into contents and I saw that there are 7 pages of contents. My God, it must have taken you a little while to comprehend all that very systematically. And then those 7 pages, I scanned through them. I said, this is big. This is interesting. It breaks in. And I looked in very specifically, Puran, I looked into it that each sector, each idea which you were talking was spanned over a page and a half. So that really interests you. You don't want long chapters of storytellings, but you want concise, as you said. And that really makes the beginner a very strong learning attitude. So I was very happy, and I was seeing that I'm still a beginner and a learner, having gone through the range of thoughts which you provide very clearly within the book. So congratulations again. All of them have echoed the same voice. And I went into the idea which you bring across the book in all the chapters. There's very great interconnectedness and interdependence. and the integration of all these thoughts. And that's all about circular economy. You have to have an interconnected and interrelated, interdependent approach around it. Let me be honest, it really touches concepts, as earlier said, in a very easy to understand, simple, no jargons. And that's the beauty of your book. It interprets the way that you can logically think and have a systems approach. So, you know, one really starts underlining them and write on the book. I have a very bad habit penning down things on the book and making it look very silly. But that's how everybody reads his own books the way you do, unless you are reading a novel. So chapter 3 is one which really integrates me to a great interest. What Puran was saying, page number 38. But I went into the entire chapter of yours, one by one, and it ended up at 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, or 3 maybe. And that characteristics of the investments which need to be required in innovations, you talk about it. You talk about developing research centers. You talk about life cycle assessments. You talk about compliances. And then you talk about the ease of compliances, which is very good. I was very impressed by that one paragraph of yours where you talk about that how the integration and the value propositions we need to create out of the compliances which the government is asking for. So then comes your collaborations and how to do what different collaborations. Then you talk about value optimization. I was wondering, how much time did you really spend in order to integrate all this? I mean, you have really touched the basic principles of circularity, about value addition, material recovery efficiency, cost optimization, and you're built in it. Must have been a number of people who you have been talking to. You did touch the subject on business models. Puran has already preempted for you another book, and so did I. I have put some thoughts around it, which I'll come and say. But you talk about circular supply chains, you talk about case studies. This is all fantastic. Another chapter of yours which draws me to a very great interest is chapter number 8. Again, it infatuates me because you explore the ideas and I am engaged in hands-on implementation, and we are trying to everyday talk with the people. What is circularity? Why do we need circularity? And UNDP has developed and collected 70,000 metric tons of plastic in the country, and we have recycled it. And that with material traceability and accountability from end to end in the ecosystem. So I think so your chapter 8 really talks about all these ideas. And I'm going to copy some of them and use them, but no funds because you have not made it patents. So I'll generate some money out of your thinking and give you a good, nice cup of teas as and when you want them. So that's really good thinking of sustainable solutions. You've given many options. You have given relevant and importance and their effectiveness. You've touched in small points. That's fine to trigger a thought. That's enough to trigger a thought because longer it goes and then you lose the length and breadth of it. It's important to trigger the thoughts. Thinking process, it's very appropriate and it speaks benefits. Let me lastly add a couple of more points that Shalini never really felt that you would be coming out. I never felt, Shalini, when I met you first time, I never felt that you're going to come out with such an intellect, debate of rationale and systems thinking. So hands up, well done. The book really benefits all, as Puran has said, and Mr. Kant, Dr. Kant also said, it really benefits all kinds of stakeholders. And I'm very happy to have 10 copies signed and a check ready for you. And that gives me and my friends a good prize to take home and enjoy it. So beginners, students, startups, civil society is one who is really endearing to have. So maybe a possibility for you with your colleagues who are there to really do a small sort of a presentation on the book and talk about little insights and share with them. Also want to mention the chapter 11, which you talk a little bit on the sustainable future that India needs to shift or is happening, or the opportunities are coming forward by the various laws which Mr. Kant mentioned, and how the government is moving on resource efficiency policies, trying to bring EPR into. So I was talking on one program with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. We don't have to wait to have the Western world to develop an EPR for construction and demolition. And then we get into construction and demolition EPR, whereas we have a huge industry on real estate. So that's another issue which UK has come out with a cent to a square meter of cloth for EPRs. We are coming up, industry is coming up very much in the steel sector, ferrous and non-ferrous. So soon the print is going to get exhausted. Don't miss out on my 10 copies. And in your second edition, I must tell you two things, what Puran said. I don't know, we never discussed it, but we aim to be talking quite similar. And I'm sure Ravinder will have his ideas and we will have similar thoughts coming across. Next book of yours, when you come with the second edition, bring out what are the barriers in circularity. Okay, bring the short-term, long-term and medium-term barriers. Bring the type of barriers in terms of legal, financial, technological and information. So these will give you a plus point. What are the parent policies within the system of circularity? What are the enabling mechanisms which are relevant and effective, which are not there today? Maybe these two couple of thoughts which earlier colleagues have given, maybe 2 chapters when you add them more and bring to 13 or your lucky number, it'll be a job well done. Enjoy it. Your insights, ideas and actions, I will try and weave some money around it and we will work together. Bet you it has been good for Nishant and Kanav and very nice to see your second edition coming soon. Over and out. Well done. Thank you to your team as well. Bye.
Thank you so much, Prabjot sir, for sharing with us your thoughts and insights. And I'm sure it gave the audience a clear picture of the book. Thank you so much for your valuable presence. It's now time to engage in a conversation with the author herself. I would like to welcome Axel Daruth, the European Union Affairs Advisor for CITIO, for the moderation session with the author. Curious and committed, Axel works on sustainable development issues with general interest and environmental protection as a common goal. Axel works very closely with all the actors of packaging value chain, in particular on the Circular Economy Package, the European Plastic Strategy, the Circular Plastic Alliance, the National Pacts on Plastic Packaging, the New Circular Economy Action Plan within the European Green Deal, and EPR projects around the world. He's also a lecturer on circular economy and European affairs for the University of Paris and ESSEC, International Business School. Over to you, Axel.
Hello, everyone, and thanks a lot for the invitations. I'm really glad to be here to launch the book of Shalini, and really congratulate Shalini because it's really a huge achievement for everybody to have this book on the whole hands for beginners and for professionals. It's really a good plus value for everyone to really close the loop. I would say at the international levels, we all need to know what are the key value of the circular economy, the advantages for economy and also for environment, and to have a new relations, I would say, the B2B, the B2C relations, but also the B2N, the business to nature relations. It's really a plus value. I never been to India, and it's really a shame, and I hope to join you maybe in a few months or years, depending of this crisis. You have spoken about Taj Mahal being your aspirations, and I would like to know more. If you would like to share more about it, please, Shalini.
Yeah, so when I talk about aspirations, well, Excel say, I would like to thank everyone here who has joined and spoken about the book so highly. I'm thankful to you, Excel. I know you've not been to India, but we'll like to welcome you to India to understand not only the circular practices, but the sustainable practices in India that have been there, rich in our culture. And India has a history of sustainable practices. And I'm very glad to see that these practices could actually be taken abroad with many to many countries, thinking about the sustainable practices that India has to bring to the table. What I aspire when I was writing the book, I think I'll tell you, when I started reading, I think there were almost 50 million Indian households that have moved up into the middle class. And the Indian consumption patterns have been actually changing, wherein most of the Indian families are now trying to copy the Western industrialized nations. There is a growing aspiration in the Indian culture with a lot of geographic diversity, which makes all the SDG or the circular goals and the endeavors very complex. India has multiple policies, as Mr. Kant was discussing, even Mr. Sodi was discussing about it, and a lot of strategies that are coming up related to the sustainable consumption and production. Whereas several ministries, along with the NITI Aayog, are in charge of implementation and they are looking at it, India is gaining momentum on circular economy. But what I saw was a huge gap in terms of insights and knowledge that was present in the Indian context. So what I started while I was writing several articles, I thought I should write that in a book to bridge this gap. What I tried is to include a lot of Indian examples that would be easily understood by the Indian reader, along with the international case studies that would help understand diverse business models and practices in circular economy, Excel.
So I suppose this is why you take the approach to have a lot of sectors and to have a transversal visions of the circular economy to really show what are the good practices.
Yeah, so when I started writing the book, I was thinking on the sustainable practices and the circular practices, and I used to talk about them on multiple platforms. Gradually, what I realized was how all sectors require to be educated on circular economy. So meanwhile, there was this draft National Resource Recovery Policy coming, and this policy aims at gradually reducing the dependence on the virgin materials in India. So it was quite pertinent to see the idea of circular economy and resource efficiency in the Indian industry. So the book, when I started planning the entire synopsis of the book, I started gathering my experiences of working in sustainability and audits in several sectors, be it tourism, wastewater, packaging, finance, or construction. I believe once these sectors they start developing the basic understanding, they'll be better equipped for more robust and technical inputs to plan their future strategies. Like Puran said, and everyone here before me actually talked about how I need to start working on the second edition of the book, or maybe the next book. I believe perhaps this prepares me for the next book, which will be very specific to each sector rather than delving into multiple sectors in one go. Let's see how it comes out.
And do you see by this approach any common principle on the life cycle analysis, eco-design, or all these sectors to include the circular economy?
Yes, so I do talk about the circular design, the system thinking in each sector that I am describing in the book. So system thinking is very important, and the circular design by itself. So if we see Excel from the Indian perspective particularly, we may not have done good research, or maybe may not have studied the life cycle analysis of the products as we go along. But I think this is an area where everybody needs to explore, including the Indian industry. And that's why I keep talking about the life cycle analysis that should be the basis of it. And I keep saying that plastics is not the only thing when we talk about circular economy. We need to think about multiple sectors. I even talk about tourism as one of the sectors in my book. And Indian economy is not a tourist-based economy, but India has a huge potential in tourism. When I see the palaces of Rajasthan to the Himalayan ranges and the cities, it's beautiful. And therein we have a lot of potential even to develop that sector more sustainable and circular. So I talk about even that kind of thinking, the shift from normal money-making, profit-making businesses to the circular businesses. And I believe eco design, circular design definitely comes at the heart of it.
Really interesting. And you know that, yeah, it's really a hard period with the COVID situation and so on. We see the limit of the planet, the boundaries of the planet right now. And we have also a big issue with the COP15 on biodiversity, and another COP in England for the climate ambition. And you have entitled your book Re-Emerging Movement. Is it linked to this context? Is it linked also to maybe the young generations, which I'm part of it? Or could you explain more about this, please?
Yes, definitely, Excel. So, if you know about India, we have Indian as well as international audience here today. So for the Indian audience, I would say Vasudev Kutumbakam, and for the international audience, I'll translate it to Earth is a family. And this is a very famous phrase from our Upanishads, and I believe everyone here would have heard about it. India is a country which celebrates its diversity while nurturing universal love, and we have sustainability as one of the key components of our culture. India has a vivid history of being resource efficient. We see many age-old practices which are making a comeback now. Indian lifestyle, which gives us a lot of examples which are circular and sustainable. So if you read the book talks about quite a few practices, which is like, I'll very quickly quote a couple of them to you. One of them being yoga. And when I see, I was doing this research and I came across the statistics of yoga, and it says if a 2-hour practice on treadmill is replaced by yoga, one could help reduce annual carbon dioxide emissions by 446 kgs. So that's the kind of relation between yoga and a treadmill. Another one is Ayurveda. I think this has come to the fore, especially in the post-pandemic world, where we see that Ayurveda is a holistic medical system that deals with not only the physical well-being, but spiritual, mental, dietary, lifestyle habits including. So this is very, very important, and our Ayush Mantralaya has played a very important role in keeping the numbers during the pandemic under control. That, I think, explains the importance of Ayurveda. Similarly, in India, we dry clothes in sun. So sun drying is a very common practice, again, as compared to the dryers which are used in the Western world. And again, another research of mine brought me to this number, which it says that half an hour of dryer consume about 1.5 kilowatt of energy. Now, if you compare that with sun drying, it is a sustainable practice. Earthen pots being another example. So, when I talk about the Indian culture, I always say that we need to unlearn more than learn the new concepts. So for India, I would say it's more of unlearning, and that's why I call it as re-emerging movement.
And with my European point of view, why do I need to learn from you in India to accelerate the circular economy in Europe, from your point of view?
I think a lot. Excel that way. I would say we have a lot of examples that could be taken. Our informal and unorganized sector, though, but the repair, the refurbish, the product lifespan that we have in India are certainly something that we can teach the Western world. So this is very important. I keep talking about that sector. Our second-hand sector, our refurbishing sector is something that keeps the product in longer use, and this is something that we can definitely teach the more developed nations about how to enhance the product lifespan, which is one of the core components of circular economy.
And from the consumer point of view, what we need to change as a shift to the circular economy for the consumers' habits?
So, again, Excel, in India, we are fortunate that the consumption patterns have changed very recently. Maybe we can go back to 1 or 2 generations, and even if I think about my own generation, I have practiced a lot of sustainable consumption that we talk about today. So I remember when I was a child, we would not throw away one dress after one usage. We would actually kind of consume it again and again until that cloth, that dress was completely torn. So these kind of practices were there. If we go back to our parents, if we go back to our grandparents, they were even more sustainable than we were. So I think consumption is definitely something that can drive the we can come back very soon if we talk about sustainability. I think it is very easy for India to come back to those sustainable practices than any other nation. And I keep talking about the decoupling. So the consumption patterns in emerging economies require a relative decoupling than the absolute decoupling that is required in the developed nations. So there is a huge consumption and GDP kind of relationship that we talk about in the emerging economies. So we can relatively decouple the consumption demands, but I think developed economies cannot talk about the relative decoupling right now. I think they have to get into absolute decoupling.
Fully in line with you. We had a report a few days ago, the Circularity Gap report, as you know. Also, Ellen MacArthur Foundation just published a report yesterday on the universal international policy that we need to implement at the international scale for circular economy. What links do you see between biodiversity and circular economy, and how the circular economy could preserve the natural resources for the Indian market, of course, but also at the international levels, since we have an international conference on biodiversity in September?
Yes, I think biodiversity plays a very important role, and I think again post-pandemic we have learned that how we can actually concentrate on the biodiversity and the species. So this is one learning that I think we all had during the pandemic. And now when you talk about circular economy, Axel, yes, there is a lot to learn, lot to kind of change ourselves in the production and the consumption patterns for the biodiversity. In the Indian context, I would relate it to the land degradation. So India sees a huge land degradation, and it's very, very unfortunate, especially because India has agricultural economy, and we have to sustain our land. And there, I think, again, the sustainable practices plays a very, very important role. We are talking about a lot of wet waste and compost making of the wet waste. But I think the practice is important, and we now need to come out of the talking, and we need to walk the talk and implement the policies rightly. So one thing, not only for India, but I think I would say for all the economies, is we have very good policies in place, be it for the resource efficiency, be it for the biodiversity, or even the consumption patterns. I think what we now need to do is practice these policies, implement them in the right possible manner, so that we are able to live a life which is in conjunction with the other species as well. I also read about certain countries coming up with the right of other species. And that is so nice to see that we are not only talking about the human rights, but we are talking about the right of the other animals and birds. That's very, very encouraging and inspiring. So I think every one of us, every single economy needs to learn from there.
Yeah, even from the biodiversity, I think we could have inspirations for the eco-design principle to take inspiration of nature, of course, yeah. And so I have also questions on specifically your book. So we know that the book garnered a lot of attention even before it was launched, and despite being your first book. So I would like to know more we had a lot of intention before it was launched. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it gives me immense pleasure, Axel, to see the kind of response the book is gathering. Well, it was my first book, and I never expected that kind of response. And especially not just the response from India, but internationally. We have been able to sell more Kindle editions than the printed editions, and that obviously shows the acceptance, and that which is huge. I receive a multiple feedback in a day, which is very, very heartwarming for me, being the debut author that way. We are getting a lot of requests. I saw someone from Europe requesting for giving 25 copies of the book at a charity event. Again, someone from Africa wanted it for their fundraiser on the golf tournament. And again, a podcast in India who wants to give the book as a giveaway. So these all are very little but very heartwarming incidents for me, which makes me feel happy, but at the same time brings a huge responsibility to me. Uh, I also see that the book has been admired by academia for the knowledge dissemination. A
Don't
lot of
miss my 10
entrepreneurs.
copies. Shalini, don't miss my 10 copies and the ideas I'm taking away from the book in trying to make money out of it. Sorry about that intervention, Axel.
Sir, I think you have amply mentioned about making money, which is so nice that you could actually talk clearly about it. And it's a pleasure for me to come and give over the copies to you. So, Axel, I think a lot of different sectors have admired it, be it the academia, be it the industry, the entrepreneurs who are learning new business models out of it. I get requests from the industry who wants to know about the best available practices and techniques. Then a lot of multilateral entities and policymakers who are liking the book. So, which is nice, and I appreciate that kind of response. And again, as everyone here has already talked about my second book, I'm now wondering that I should start thinking about the second book as well. Well, that again is a huge responsibility on me.
And of course, the first and the second will be part of my sources for my circular economy courses in France and in EU. It's
Sure.
also inspiring to have your words on circular economy from India. Maybe to finish these dialogues together, what do you have to say with your inspirations with this book to the young generations, such as mine generations, that we will be the futures in the planets to lead the environmental policies and industrial challenges? What do you have to say to us?
So I think, Excel, for the industry, I would say there is a long way to go. We have just begun. We all need to learn a lot when we talk about the eco parks or when we talk about the industrial symbiosis. There is a long way to go, and we need to learn. Everyone is learning and finding, and research. A lot of research needs to be done to find out what are the best possible techniques. We are learning by mistake. We are learning by maybe failing even. So, but my one suggestion to the young generation is that you should not be afraid of the failures, because this is a new domain and everyone is kind of innovating. So a lot of times I come across the young generation who's very skeptical to the failure, which should not be the case, in particularly in case of circular economy. Everyone is learning, everyone is finding out the best possible way of finding out a solution. So and then today we see a lot of new innovations coming out which may not be again sustainable, and then again a lot of people come to me and say, what about it? It may not be a sustainable solution. I said, but awareness is important. I think we are right now all across the world, we are sitting at a point where awareness is very, very important. And I'm very glad to see how the consumers are becoming more aware than the industry itself, and consumers are driving the market, be it in India or maybe Europe or America. It's the consumers who are driving it. And once the consumer is aware and consumer knows that he wants to get more sustainable, I think the industry will be forced to adapt to sustainable methods, sustainable policies. And that's how I think it is being driven all across the world. So experiment, innovate, research, don't be afraid of failures, and learn from your mistakes. I think do a lot of study. That's very, very important. We need to invest. I think Mr. Sodi was asking how much time did I take to write the book. I took almost 1.5 years to write the book, to compile what I was trying to compile. When I was talking about the last chapter, so you mentioned about the 11th chapter about India and circularity. It took me a long time to understand how should India look at it. So to frame my mind on how India should look at circularity is very different from how Europe could look at circularity. So, the approach has to be different because the methodologies are different, the industry is different, the technologies are different. But having said that, I see a huge potential in Indian market, particularly to adopt to sustainable practices. And I think the Indian entrepreneurs, the young generation, has a lot to kind of consolidate, a lot to innovate and come out with better ideas. So I think that's true for all the youngsters.
Thanks a lot, and we have a lot to learn from you, Shalini. Thanks a lot for this interview, and congrats for your book. I'm really glad to be here with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the intriguing fireside chat, Axel. Those were very engaging questions raised by you indeed. We are grateful for your presence and for taking the dialogue on the preeminence of a circular economy forward. And thank you, Ms. Bhalla, for taking us through your heartwarming journey. You truly are an epitome of an empowered woman of rising India, hoping to bring about a positive change. And like it said, a good book has no ending. We already discussed about the upcoming part 2 in this particular session. So it is just a beginning to follow and carve the best of the best paths when it comes to going circular. And we really appreciate our audience and readers here for showing their keen interest in the book, which truly is a reflection of your drive to bring a change and to lead the path for environmental sustainability by example. We have prepared a very short video to capture the reaction of our lovely audience on the book, and we are truly glad to present the same before you.
With that, we reach to the conclusion of the event. Once again, I would like to thank all the attendees for your valuable presence in today's event. The book is available on Amazon and we anticipate your reviews on the same. Like our author says, this is just the beginning. A lot more needs to be done. I hope that the book serves for you as a wonderful insight in the world of circular economy, and together we make a lasting impact. Thank you.